Hello. Just waiting for YouTube to confirm that stream is live, video is being received. There I am, alright. Hello. Yeah, camera's in the right spot. You can see the title of the stream, you can read the description. Recently, about last week I think. Actually, it was probably, yeah, it was last week. MatPat announced he was moving on from the Game Theory channels, all of his theory channels, and for past couple years I've wanted to make a video like this because I used to watch a lot of Game Theory and I stopped watching it about 6 years ago, so there's a lot I haven't seen. And so I wanted to make some kind of video talking about all of them, going back through all of them. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it in some kind of like video essay or live stream like this, separated videos, just highlights, that kind of thing. But with the announcement that MatPat is moving away from the theorist channels, I thought it would be a good idea to do this as a live thing. And just get through as many of them as I can before the final theory goes up, which I believe is on March 9th. So I have some time, but there are about 550 of these. So I'm going to try and move through these pretty quickly to just get through. Again, I watched for apparently about half the runtime, because my best guess is that it was about 6 years ago that I stopped watching them. But these early ones, I believe I've watched quite a lot. I remember I used to rewatch them pretty frequently. So I'm just gonna start these out. I'm not sure how much commentary I'm going to really have. Yeah, I used to do a bunch of these intros. I believe this was originally one of the Screw Attack videos he did. So I think the first couple. Games 10 Senso Learning Experience.
Through these videos, we hope you'll find more reasons to appreciate some of your favorite games.
Again, all of these early ones were going to be edited just by him, so it's a lot of just Photoshop and PowerPoint.
If anything, the game can teach us about its core gameplay mechanic, time travel. We'll start off by looking at the first method of time travel used in
There's so much. I hope that he actually does something like this, where he watches back a lot of the old game theories and like talk about the making of these and how game theory evolved over time.
But is it fact or fiction? Are there any real-world equivalents to these phenomena? Well, Square, Chrono's developer, knows what they were talking about because, believe it or not, there have been reports of real-world time gates.
I'm wondering if I should have this set to like 1 1/4 speed, but I don't think that's really worthwhile.
Via some unknown, accidental, or mystical way. The reports are, well, I'll let you be the judge. This link will take you to some videos
Wow,
these stories, specifically one from 1979, the Time Tripping Hotel. Chrono's time gates are also very reminiscent
put the entire URL.
Specifically, traversable wormholes, a theoretical physics concept that is thought to serve as a shortcut through time and space. The Morris Thorne wormhole, the first ever proposed, was thought to be held open by some spherical exotic matter and, surprisingly, look very similar to the ones found in the game. Point Chrono. That covers one mode of transportation found in the game, but what about the time machine? The aptly named
Okay, these first few are going to be less than 10 minutes, so that's not too bad. I'm not sure how much I'm going to do through this one video.
So how accurate is it? Once again, I am happy to say that it's really not that far from the truth. According to Einstein's theories of relativity, if we could achieve a speed approaching the speed of light, a dilation of time would occur, causing time to pass slower on the moving body relative to that on Earth, technically making it possible to travel into the future. So let's take it one step further. Does the epic actually reach these enormous speeds? The whole animation takes 3 seconds, so figuring that the circumference of the Earth is about 24,900 miles at the
That's a
equator,
weird
you're
clip
traveling at
art to
speeds around
use.
8,300 miles per second. Now compare that to the speed of light, which is 186,000 miles per second, and Chrono and the gang don't come close. But I would hazard to say that even at their speeds, some time dilation effects would occur. And now it's time for a segment I like to call
Oh, I think
This week's Deep
I
Thought
think
is
that
a
segment
pointed
came
Chrono
up like
story that I skimmed over
in
when
the
I was 9
first
years old
maybe
playing the game
10
for
or
the first
so.
time.
It wasn't
Let's set the
very
scene.
long,
So
but I'm
upon
pretty
arriving
sure that
at
is
the
a
Middle Ages, your party member
like
Morrow from the present
recurring
is mistaken for the
segment.
kingdom's kidnapped queen. Thinking that their lost queen has returned, the medieval search party ends, thus ensuring the death of the real queen. As a result, Marl, who is really a princess and the descendant of the lost queen, disappears completely. In essence, what my impatient 9-year-old mind couldn't understand at the time
It's
was
the
the game
bootstrap
designers setting up
paradox.
what is called a grandfather paradox. It goes something like this. A time traveler goes back in time to kill his grandfather
Well,
before the grandfather
no,
meets his
bootstrap
future
might not
wife.
actually apply
This
because
murder
bootstrap
would
is
prevent
object
one
of
of the
no
time
words,
traveler's
and
parents from being born, and thus the time
they're
traveler
similar.
himself from being born, which in turn means that he could never go back in time to kill the grandfather in the first place. Tricky, right? But what's it mean? Some use the grandfather paradox
So many
as
of
evidence
these,
that time travel isn't possible, while others, like physicists Igor Novikov and Kip Thorne, resolve the paradox by proposing that any time travel must be self-consistent. That is, anything a time traveler does has always been a part of history, or in other words, that past events cannot be changed, only altered toward the same conclusion. So, when Chrono and the team rescue the real queen, they preserve the original timeline but alter slightly the way it was achieved. There is, of course, a third option,
yeah,
the possibility of parallel universes and alternate timelines, but now is not the time to touch on string theory.
I would
We'll save that for when we
I
talk
would
about
propose
Kirby's
that
Epic Yarn.
it is more akin to the
And now it's
concept
time for my
that
final thought. To this day, I love Chrono Trigger.
even in the
All-time
original
mechanics and
timeline, the
genius
time travel
brilliantly
occurred,
implemented. The
and
story
there is
epic,
no
and the worlds
alteration
you
to
explore
it,
are all fully realized,
because
but
the
beyond
queen
that,
was
we've seen
rescued
today
in
that
the
it
original
definitely
timeline,
provides a
and it is
fairly
not
accurate
made clear
portrayal of
by
time
who.
travel as it's currently envisioned. But here's
It's
the
not
take-home
hinted
question.
that it was
Is
anyone
it
like
possible?
Chrono
Will we
that
be able
saved
to
the
fly
queen
to the past to
originally,
save our prehistoric ancestors, or jump forward
but
to fight in post-apocalyptic
entirely
futures?
reasonable and
The answer to that
fairly
comes in two
common
parts. Probably not,
like
and
twist
maybe, but
in
probably not. It's currently unknown if backwards
games.
time travel is possible. Just look at the grandfather paradox and you'll see just one of many of its complications. Stephen Hawking, the famous theoretical physicist, said it best. If travel to the past is possible, then where are all the tourists from the future? Well, it's either that it's not possible, or we live in a time that no one wants to visit. So, seeing dinosaurs or visiting King Arthur's court probably won't be happening without going to a museum. But that doesn't rule out time travel completely. Einstein's theory of relativity showed the world a possible doorway to the future, and some small-scale experiments have actually verified that velocity-based time travel is possible. In short, there's a lot of
Yeah, they
contemplated
used
theories, and we're a long way off
atomic
technologically, but
clocks.
who knows what tomorrow may bring? I mean,
Sent
you don't
them
find
at
the time machine in the
in
game until the
high-speed
year
planes,
2300, so we have a while to wait. But then again, the world was
and
supposed to end
brought
in
it back,
1999.
and it
Anyway,
had
what comes
perceived
next?
less
Only time
time
will tell.
on
Thanks for
the
watching.
clock that was moving than the clock that stayed in place.
Pull out your monkey wrench and
I
just
hope
say no to crack,
the
'cause we're
audio
going
is fine. I'm
clubbing.
gonna turn it slightly down here.
I work in the sewer, it's a very hard
Hello, Internet, and welcome to Game Theory, gaming's
Tangential
tangential learning
learning
experience. Since last week's
Alright,
first episode
so
about theoretical physics was a little
what do I remember
heavy,
about
today
this
we're
one?
going to lighten
I
things
think this
up
is
by spending
just
some time with the world's
a like
most
short
famous
stories
plumber,
collection.
Mario. But what do we really know about this international man of mystery? Has Nintendo been pulling the wool over the eyes of Western audiences about Mario's true heritage? Let's find out. Mario's first career was as a carpenter. Running on girders to stop evil apes in Donkey Kong. It wasn't until the 1983 arcade
This isn't
game
the one where he
Mario
talks
Brothers
about
that he got his start
two
as an
separate
Italian
Marios and two
American plumber
separate
in New York.
Donkey
In it,
Kongs, right?
Mario and brother Luigi must combat turtles, crabs, and flies wandering through the pipelines. So, as someone currently living in New York and figuring that flies in a sewer are a given, I ask, do we really have turtles and crabs running through the city's pipes? Well, let's start with the crabs. The long winters of New York and the already polluted and cold conditions of the sewer would make it pretty challenging for a crab to survive. However, in Italy, with its warmer climate, crabs in the sewer date back to the year 100, when Emperor Trajan imported crabs from Macedonia and set them free in the center of the town forum as part of a pagan crab festival. Those that escaped into the sewer thrived, and to this day, they are called Trajan crabs or sewer crabs. But what about turtles? And no, these turtles don't count. Although specific data is rare, it is generally believed that the chilly, dark, and bacteria-ridden conditions of the sewer would prevent cold-blooded creatures like turtles from surviving and reproducing underground. However, there is
Okay, I'm
another
going to
side
turn
to
the
the
speed
story.
up
Folklore
just a
abounds
little
with
bit.
tales of unwanted pets being flushed down toilets only to flourish in the sewer. According to Robert Daly's The World Beneath the Sea,
Yeah, this isn't
New
too
York
fast.
sewers were known to contain alligators in
Good.
1935, and there have since been multiple reports of the animals being captured on city
Okay, yeah,
streets,
this one
as
is
recent as
the one I was
2006 in
remembering.
Brooklyn.
I don't
But
know
most of
when we
Tycho,
get
in
to the
Alexandria, Australia, rescuers
two
found
Donkey
a rare American
Kongs,
snapping turtle that they
two
nicknamed Cowabunga living in the
Marios.
sewers. Look familiar? So maybe there is something to this after all. Moving on to our portly plumber's signature adventures with the Super Mario Brothers games, our red-clad hero finds himself in the Mushroom Kingdom, a plumber's paradise of pipes, clogged with fire-breathing weeds and elaborate brick sewers. I originally wanted to explore if it was possible to clean out pipes using fireballs, since that seems to be Mario's only plumbing technique, but Google searching for weed in pipes didn't give me exactly what I was looking for. However, I did dredge up this factoid. Pets aren't the only things being flushed down toilets. Another popular staple of New York sewer folklore in the 1960s was that of New York White, an especially potent albino strain of marijuana growing from seeds in pot baggies that had been flushed down toilets during drug raids. Unfortunately, there was never any verification of this, probably due to the alligators and mutant turtles guarding their stashes. But on a somewhat related note, last
He
month,
uses that
49
image a
pounds of
lot in
pot were
these
found
earlier
clogging the sewers
games.
in Arizona. So maybe Mario had some ulterior motives when he lit up the weed in those green pipes. Speaking of green pipes, that's a weird color for a pipe to be, right? Not really. For one, many pipes are made of copper,
Yeah,
and copper
copper
exposed to moisture
oxidized.
oxidizes, creating a green patina on its surface. For a classic example, just look at the Statue of Liberty. So perhaps the plumbing in the Mushroom Kingdom is all copper and just a little aged. But there is another explanation. With the green movement in full swing, more and more companies are covering their products in this quote-unquote eco-friendly color. For instance, the German company Aquatherm has built their reputation around a signature product line, the aptly named Green Pipe. One final note about Super Mario Brothers. Notice how the underground levels in the game take place in brick sewers? Well, Nintendo got lucky in making Mario from New York. If he were from anywhere else, they would have been wrong, considering that clay was the dominant material for pipe when sewers were first installed shortly after the Civil War, and cast iron became a
So I
popular
don't have a
choice
ton
thereafter.
to say
New
about
York
these early
sewers,
ones.
on the other
They're
hand, are indeed
a lot
influenced
simpler
by
than
Europeans
the
who switched to
theories
making
get
elaborate
later.
brick systems after a tragic experience with
I
lead
think
pipes
once we
perhaps
start getting
contributed
to
certain
like,
this
it's
underground
probably after
architecture,
like
much
20
still used
episodes. He
today,
made
closely
so many of
resembles some
these. There was a,
designs used in Mario's
I
later
believe,
games, like in
pretty
Super Mario
weekly
RPG.
from
And
the
on
very
that note,
beginning.
in the forest maze of Super Mario RPG, Mario experiences a different kind of pipe, log pipes, that function much in the same way as the normal green variety. Surprisingly, we once again find ourselves looking abroad for the real-world example. Perhaps as early as the 13th century, people in England were using hollowed-out elm logs for water pipelines. The US eventually caught on to the idea, installing wooden pipes in the early 1800s. Now you know! And now it's time for my final thought. We've grown up believing in what Nintendo has always told us, that Mario is a true-blooded Italian-American from New York living in the Mushroom Kingdom. But what we've seen here today might point in another direction. We've learned that crabs run rampant in the sewers of Italy, and that turtles may have a better chance of surviving sewer conditions in warmer climates. We now know that a leading green pipe manufacturer has a headquarters in Germany, and that brick sewer structures and log drainage systems are more commonly found in old European cities. So what does that tell us? Only this: that our Italian-American plumber may actually have fewer American ties than we've been led to believe, and that perhaps the Mushroom Kingdom is actually found in the old continent. As one last nail in Mario's coffin, as anyone in New York can tell you, no real New Yorker would be caught dead wearing bright colors. His garish red garb is much more suited for the frou-frou stylings of a European man. Anyway, it's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
Oh, I don't think you said that in the first one. Helping out more and more. Yeah, that's gonna keep being more.
Put on your conquistador helmets and brush up on your geography, because we're exploring some world wonders.
World Wonders. This one isn't Assassin's Creed.
Hello Internet, and welcome to Game Theory, gaming's tangential learning experience. Through these videos, it's my goal to teach you a little bit about a diverse cross-section of subjects, and yet, I'll admit, I too have been learning. For example, after last week's episode, I got a much better sense of what you, the viewer, want most from these videos, but I digress. In any event, I'll keep you abreast of any new developments. Back to the point. Illusion of Gaia was my third favorite game growing up, and some now consider it a forgotten 16-bit gem from the Super Nintendo. What truly boggled my young mind, aside from it being packaged with a really nifty t-shirt, was the game's use of real-world locations. After years of Mushroom Kingdoms and Hyrules, for the first time I was able to look around outside and feel like video games could actually be real. Illusion of Gaia passes through at least 10 real-world historical sites, but today we're going to look briefly at
An interesting thing about these early ones is the amount of just direct fan art and stuff that is used without any credit, and that 13 years ago that was much less of a big deal.
They were the largest empire in the early Americas, centered in the Cusco
Like,
region
I feel
of
like
Peru. And yes,
the more
if the name
modern
Cusco rings a bell, you would be on the right track. Even though
game
this village
theories
and a ship of gold seem far-fetched, they're not that far
use
from the truth. As a
less
culture, the
just
Incas worshipped Inti, the sun
ripped
god, and gold,
images
which was thought to
and
possess the
more
holy image of the sun, was used
handmade
for
by
religious
the
worship, not
art and
currency.
edit
Their
team.
wealth made them a target for Spanish conquistadors, namely Pizarro, who kidnapped the Incas' last emperor, held him ransom for 3 rooms filled floor to ceiling with silver and gold, then killed him anyway. This tragic fall of a great empire coincides perfectly with the timeline presented in the game. Gaia takes place during the Age of Exploration, a period between the early 15th and 17th
So in
centuries,
later
when the
videos,
Portuguese and
a
Spanish
lot of
sailors
the
searched for new worlds, new trade routes, and new
visuals were
sources
made
of silver,
specifically for
gold,
the
and
video,
spices.
but in
It's
these early
explained in
ones
the
where
game
it's
that the village
just
is
him and
invisible to protect it
Stephanie,
from all the outsiders trying to invade. As for the ship of
he's
gold,
just
it seems likely that they
using
would have had enough
whatever
supply to complete such a structure,
visuals he
but
can
there is
find.
no lore about any such ship. Instead, their ships tended to be made of reeds and balsa wood. After helping to combat some slave trade near the Diamond Coast, the team makes its way back to Peru to explore our second location, the mysterious Nazca Lines, specifically one formation named the Condor. The game describes them as ground paintings, but they are really shallow channels made by removing the reddish rocks on the desert ground to reveal the pale layer underneath. There are hundreds of these figures, ranging from simple lines to elaborate designs of spiders, hummingbirds, and even monkeys. The mysterious formations date back to the year 400 and are still around today due to the windless and stable climate of the area. Though the game only allows you to explore the Condor, it is recreated almost perfectly. The game also agrees with real-life theories as to their purpose, communicating with a higher power. Anthropologists studying the Nazca culture have said that the lines were created for the benefit of their gods in the sky. On the other end of the spectrum, some theories have postulated that they are runways for aliens. Illusion of Gaia links the paintings to a mysterious garden in the sky, possibly alluding to another world wonder, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which also relates to the final location of the game. But what isn't as exact is the game's attempt to connect the drawings to the constellation Cygnus, or the Swan. Stones placed around the condor in the game are supposed to relate to positions of stars in the sky, but in fact don't come close to matching their real-world arrangements. A third leg of the journey leads Will to Angkor Wat, an ancient temple filled with gorgons, zombies, and fighting shrubbery. It was my favorite level in the game, so finding out that it actually exists in Cambodia and is even featured on their national flag blew my mind. Built in the early 12th century, it is the world's largest religious building, designed to represent Mount Meru, home of the Devas, the benevolent supernatural beings of Hindu mythology. Again, the game recreates the location well, from fighting through its multiple tiers of courtyards to the reliefs decorating the walls to even the shrub monsters that
I feel like I should be saying more, but a lot of these early ones are just like lists of trivia relating to the game. There's not as much to talk about. But I do miss this style of them because I do enjoy these where it's just talking about just talking about details and backstory. The very first Five Nights theory fit that because it was talking about parallels between the events of the game and a real world killing at a Chuck E. Cheese.
After the kingdom became known as the storied Babylon, but why is it in the game? Without spoiling anything, the events in the tower result in a massive
That was interesting.
way of life to a new and unfamiliar world. Like the Babel tale, Illusion of Gaia is an etiology, a story meant to explain some phenomena. The Babel lore explains the birth of the languages of the world. In Gaia, the events surrounding the tower usher in another type of birth, a rebirth of the Earth itself. A big task for a video game and quite an epic place to conclude an already epic journey. And now it's time for my final thought. This game is all over the map. No, really, look at the map. Why visit all these ancient civilizations? And this video doesn't even mention the Great Wall of China or the pyramids at Giza, 2 more landmarks that it includes. Other games like DuckTales or Bart vs. the World also visit famous landmarks, but the locations are simply settings, excuses to make the obligatory jump between ice level, water level, and mountain level. Never are the places themselves vital pieces of the narrative. Illusion of Gaia is different. From starving tribes to slave trade, from personal losses to the loss of a way of life, this game isn't about Will and his missing father, it's about a planet and the beautiful, mysterious, and terrible things that happen on it. Earth is the main character. I mean, for crying out loud, Gaia, the Greek goddess personifying Earth, is in the title, so that should be the first clue. In brief, our world is an amazing place if only we're curious about it. That was how this game captured my imagination as a kid, and is one of the reasons that I do these videos in the first place, to learn more about a planet that's easy to overlook. The real world can be just as
So
cool as
what
Midgar.
are the other early ones? Is it Sonic, Axel Speed?
A game theory.
I know that one's like very early.
Don't come to expect this every week, but I may just throw in one every now and then to keep you tuning in and paying attention. So with that said, ta-ta for now.
This isn't the one that he talked about, that she specifically had to go to Stephanie to be like, hey, is this okay?
Hold block.
Am I doing
Press
too much?
Forward, duck, back, up, and forward, because we're exploring the cute and cuddly world of... Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory. You know the drill. In 3 episodes, we've looked at 3 older games, and last week did get a little touchy-feely, so let's get current and let's get gory. To celebrate the recent release of MK9, we're looking at some of the many painful ways to die in the Mortal Kombat universe. First, let's start with a classic, the human hand-heart extraction. Kano's move from the original Mortal Kombat isn't just a memorable gaming scene, it's a staple movie moment, most famously from the Temple of Doom. And yes, to answer the question before it's even asked, ripping out still beating hearts does have its place in history history with the Aztecs, the people of the sun. Between the 14th and 16th centuries,
yeah.
before the Spaniards arrived in Mexico, the Aztecs were a thriving culture with a rich religious life in Mesoamerica. They believed, as told in their Legend of the Five Sons, that all the gods had sacrificed themselves so that man could live. To them, a continual sacrifice sustained the universe, with the most common form being the extraction of the heart, which they believed to possess a fragment of the sun's heat. By extracting the heart, this fragment was
That's a
freed
weird
and
way
returned
to
the sun.
describe the
One of the two
math,
principal
but
deities of the Aztec religion was Huitzilopochtli, the god of the sun and its zenith, and also the god of war. With a flint knife, one incision was made, and then the heart was ripped out, still beating and held up to the sky in Huitzilopochtli's honor. But wait, there's more. Though cremation normally followed, sometimes the body would be used in a ritualistic act of cannibalism. Not even Mortal Kombat.
Most of these
but then again, that was almost 20
stories
years ago.
are based
Come on,
entirely
Reese's
based
then.
off of the
Speaking of
Conquistadors
removing organs,
records, where
let's
they
talk
had
about
a
a human's
vested
largest
interest
one,
in
the
making
skin.
the
In the
Aztecs
newest
look
9th installment of the series,
worse.
Shiva has a nifty little fatality where she rips the skin clean off her opponent's body in 2 pieces. However, in this case, truth is stranger than fiction. Not only is peeling the skin away from muscle possible, but the Aztecs, yes, them again, could do Shiva one better by pulling it off in one clean sheet. After their careful extraction of the heart, some sacrificial victims would also have their flesh ripped off as a sacrifice to the god Totec, who was said to have given his own flesh
our
so
Lord
that
the
humanity
Flayed
could have
One.
food. Statues
That's the
depicting
translation
look like
of
a
the name.
brainstorming session for Silence of the Lambs, complete with a fleshy mask and pair of arms hanging at his side. To honor him, Aztec priests would wear the freshly cut skin garments for 20 days beginning on the spring equinox. Removing it at the end of this period symbolized
because he
renewal
was
of the
a
seasons, much like a snake losing its skin. Now,
typical
Shiva may
tech
not wear much,
was
but even she didn't go this far. While we're chatting about the
agriculture
women of
deity,
MK, let's
so
talk about kissing.
the rituals related to them were
Both Sonya
often
Blade and
during
Kitana
planting
have fatalities
seasons.
brought on by a kiss. But aside from a cold sore mono or an angry girlfriend, what harm can kissing do in real life? It's not like there's really such a thing as a kiss of death, is there?
Wrong.
The kiss of death actually refers to the bite of the reduvid bug, or kissing bug, of Mexico and South America, which sucks blood out of a human's lips when he's asleep. After feeding, the bug poops, pardon my language, leaving behind fecal matter contaminated with the parasite Trypanosoma cruzi, which causes Chagas disease, a disease affecting all vital organs that is linked to some 50,000 deaths a year. Some symptoms: swelling and vomiting. Explosions producing 3 or more rib cages are rare. The kiss of death was also a nickname for a small pistol hidden inside a lipstick tube used by the KGB during the Cold War, but none of these things are like the kisses in the game. Is there anything
this
closer? Well,
poisoned.
maybe. In my research, everyone kept repeating this exact line. Quote, by the Renaissance, people were selling poison rings, knives, letters, and even poison lipstick. But nowhere was I able to find any hard evidence supporting this. Instead, it seems that they were confusing a purposeful use of poisonous ingredients in lipstick with an accidental use of ingredients that were found to be poisonous years later, like the ancient Egyptians using fucus algin, a reddish-purple mercuric plant dye. And even today, many bright red lipsticks contain trace amounts of the poisonous element lead. So, what's the verdict on kisses of death? I say, go forth and kiss as you please. Speaking of swapping spit, what type of reptile is reptile? Are there any human-sized acid-spitting lizards that we should be careful of? Well, there are thought to be only 2 poisonous lizards, the Gila monster and the Mexican bearded lizard, but both inject their toxins through biting, not spitting, so that rules them out. But that's not the end of the story. Komodo dragons, the largest living species of lizard, have a buildup of septic bacteria in their mouths because of their diet of dead animals. So even though they don't spit to burn off people's faces, they could if they wanted to. Add to that the fact that they can grow up to 9.8 feet long and are known to stand on their hind legs in battles over females during the mating season, and you have a pretty good candidate for the reptile behind the mask. Let's finish this by looking at one of the 2 guys that made this series famous, Sub-Zero. When it comes to gameplay, freezing people and shattering their bodies into 1,000 pieces is his modus operandi. But could a Sub-Zero ninja really do this in real life? The answer is a resounding yes. Since our bodies are 50 to 65% water, dropping our core temperature enough would practically make us into human popsicles. So let's turn down the heat and see what happens. At 86 degrees Fahrenheit, your body enters a state called metabolic icebox. You'll look dead, and you won't move, but you'll still be alive. That is until 68 degrees, when your heart finally stops. But to be cold enough to actually break off a body part, you would have to get the body down to 28 degrees Fahrenheit, literally freezing your balls off. Considering that liquid nitrogen is around negative 321 degrees Fahrenheit, this doesn't seem so implausible after all. In fact, Sub-Zero isn't the only one making a living off of shattering human ice sculptures. Promessa Organic, a company in Sweden, specializes in eco-friendly
Yeah.
barriers, where a body is frozen, submerged in liquid nitrogen, then reduced to a powder using sound waves. And that's anything but toasty. And now it's time for my final thought. I'll keep
There's
it
a
brief.
couple
We've seen a lot of
variations of
horrendous
that
ways to
kind of
die
thing.
today. So what's the take-home message? What have we really learned? Only this. Stay away from Aztecs, because they're crazy. That's really all I got. But hey, it's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
Very abrupt music sense.
Take a break from your classic Nickelodeon and get ready to
This
do
is a
what
different
Nintendo
microphone.
because we're taking a walk on the wild side.
Okay, and this is the Sonic one.
Hello Internet, welcome to Game Theory. Today we're exploring the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Sonic franchise to see what its cute cast of critters can teach us about their real-life counterparts. Are hedgehogs really the fastest things alive? What the heck is an echidna anyway? And if there's time, we'll dig deep to look at some of the forgotten members of Sonic's extended character roster. So, let's dive right in. What do we know about Sonic? Well, he's blue, wears gnarly shoes, has about 5 or so spikes on his back, and can run really fast. How fast? Well, let's let his theme song do the talking.
Does he talk about the
So
like
I think it's safe to say
original
that most of you watching know that hedgehogs can't be blue and have more than just 5 spines on their
like
backs,
English
or like
book
5,000.
detailing
You also probably
Sonic's
know that they
backstory
aren't
that was
fastest.
then
That title
completely
goes to the
dropped
cheetah
by
at 70
Sega.
miles per hour on land, the peregrine falcon in the air at 185 miles per hour, and the sailfish underwater at 68. But obviously a cheetah can run faster because it's bigger with longer legs. So what if we took into account the relative size of each animal? Maybe then the hedgehog is the fastest. Well, it's a nice try, but no dice. Accounting for size, the winner is the cockroach, because it can run 50 times its body length every second. That's like a human running at 185 miles per hour. It's a scary thought. That's not to say that hedgehogs are slow, though. Unlike cheetahs that can only run in short bursts of time, hedgehogs have terrific running stamina, making around 4.5 miles per hour, which turns out to be about 6.6 times their body length every second. Definitely quick for a small guy, but hardly the fastest thing alive. So here's a quick quiz. What do Samus from Metroid and Sonic the Hedgehog have in common? I'll give you a second. Ready? They're both female. Surprised? Well, you should be, because it's a lie. The real answer is that they can both curl up into tiny balls. That, and they both appear in Super Smash Bros. Brawl and have lots of creepy fan art dedicated to them, but that's beside the point. Beginning in Sonic 2, Sonic is able to rev up into a rolling spiked ball, and this, of all things, is something hedgehogs can do. Not rev up, but as a method of defense, the animal's 2 back muscles can pull the spiky skin over its belly and face, creating a prickly ball. In extreme circumstances, the hedgehog can also roll to attack, though in most cases it will just choose to run away. So, it appears that there is something accurate about Sonic's characterization after all. What about Knuckles? The games teach us that echidnas are gliding, wall-crawling animals that can dig with massive spiked fists. Should we trust them? Similar to Sonic, Knuckles really only has one attribute in common with his brethren. It's the digging. Found in Australia, echidnas have long claws that they use to burrow and forage for food, but these claws don't come close to matching the design of the Red Guardian of the Master
I mean, it
Emerald.
is
Like the
2
hedgehog,
notable
they too are covered in
claws.
spines, earning them the name Spiny Anteater, and use rolling into a quilled ball as a defense mechanism. But the echidna is much more than a hedgehog wannabe. Sega left out the most unique characteristics of the species,
course.
and for good reason. First, their rear legs are backwards. You heard that right. Their front feet point forwards, and their back feet backwards. It's to help them dig faster, and it must work because they date back to the dinosaurs. But they also get even weirder. Like their closest relatives, the platypus, echidnas are monotremes, which means that they're mammals that lay eggs and hatch their young. The echidna and the platypus are the only 2 animals in the world to do this. Finally, and I'm sorry to bring this up, but it's just so odd that it had to be mentioned, they have a 4-headed penis. Enough said. In any case, replacing a 4-headed penis with the ability to glide, I'd say it's a fair trade. Well done, Sega. Since there's not much time left, let's do a speed run through some of the overlooked members of the Sonic menagerie.
Yeah, I guess
Ready?
he's going
Go.
for 8-minute
First, Tails the
videos.
adorable mutant. What type of a fox is he? According to Absolute Anime, he's a fennec fox, but
Yeah.
I disagree. Let's compare pictures. Fennecs are known for their oversized ears and black-tipped tail. Tails' ears are proportional to his head, and his tail has a white tip. His coloration of red-orange, white-tipped tail, and vertical oval pupils all point in the direction of him being a red fox. Second, Rouge the Buxom Bat, Knuckles' rival/love interest. I guess no one told her about the you-know-what, or maybe they did. Anyway, is there such a thing as a white bat? Absolutely. Take away the bustier and hooker boots, there's plenty of creepy fan art to do it for you, and Rouge looks like a dead ringer for the Honduran white bat, a snowy white fluff ball with yellow nose and ears. The Honduran white bat has also been said to have inspired the Woobat from the newest strain of Pokemon. Next, how about Espio the Chameleon? Ever heard of him? No? Well, he had the power to change into all sorts of 90s tastic colors in Knuckles Chaotix. So, can a chameleon turn purple? According to National Geographic, yes, they can change into practically any color. Chameleons have layers of special pigment cells under their skin called chromatophores. The top layers are red and yellow, the bottom blue and white. Signals from the brain tell these cells to either grow or shrink, which causes a mixing of the pigments much like paint and can take as little as 20 seconds. Finally, we come to Storm the Albatross from Sonic Riders. Yeah, we're really digging deep. He's the big, dumb, but
But you don't
fierce
really
loyal
have to
member of the
be.
Babylon
There's
Rogues,
a lot
an
of
alien group of thieves.
There's a
Real
lot
albatrosses
of
are similar. They're
Sonic
known to live in colonies
characters.
with other birds, so flying alongside a hawk and swallow in the Sonic games is accurate. And, unlike other animals, they are very dedicated to their partners, as shown through the lifelong pair bonds that they make with their mates. As far as being big and dumb, the giant albatross has the largest wingspan of any living bird, but these wings give them some trouble with takeoff and landing, making them look really silly. And that, my friends, is all you ever needed to know about Sonic zoology, bringing us to my final thought. It's common to hear gamers mourn the
Why is
loss of
this
Sonic, with more
here?
emphasis
Uh,
on supporting characters like Rouge, the
Okay, there
Chaotix,
we
and the
go.
Babylon Rogues, and the increasingly
Sorry
desperate
about that.
attempts at
I
reinvention. Many
don't know
consider
why
Sonic
that's
to be
there.
one of the most beaten dead horses in the gaming industry, and bizarrely enough, real life offers deep insight into this. The first Sonic game was released in June
Oh,
of
yeah,
1991.
lifespan
Sonic
of
and
a
Knuckles,
hedgehog.
considered by many to be the last great Sonic game, came 3.5 years later in October of
Hedgehog
1994.
lived for like
The average
4
lifespan
years.
for a hedgehog? I kid you not, 3.5 years.
Yeah.
But let's take it one step further. The Dreamcast games, Sonic's triumphant jump to 3D, were also very well received, with Sonic Adventure 2 being the last, before the waves of odd design choices and bad reviews hit him in the aughts. Adventure 2 was released 10 years after the original. Is it a coincidence, then, that the maximum lifespan of a hedgehog is 9 years? Art imitates life, unintentionally. Anyway, it's just a theory. A game theory.
It feels so weird, that music shift. Krisa Navida. I don't know if I know them. I don't remember them on any of the, like... I don't know how long they were working on the game theories. It might be a screw attack thing, but I don't... I feel like at this point we're past where it was on screw attack.
Of Frogger.
He takes one step at a time. The way that he moves has no reason or rhyme. He hops and jumps, dodges and ducks. Cars
Yeah, this is talking about
Hello,
the
Internet, and welcome
Australian
to Game Theory,
toads
except
thing.
no substitutes.
thing.
But if you do, make sure that you come back to my show every week as well, okay? Thanks. Anyway, we're keeping it short and sweet this week because I'm in the middle of a cross-country road trip to make a permanent relocation to the Los Angeles area. At Journey's outset, Brian, my resident hotness consultant for the Illusion of Gaia episode, this one, in case you forgot, hit a pigeon. So, as I spend 14 hours each day staring at the road, I can't help but think of two things: roadkill, and the game dedicated to it, Frogger. But what secrets could this old arcade classic possibly hide? Would you believe me if I told you that I could prove without a
that's-
reasonable doubt the exact
Polybius
species of
episode
frog
is one of
featured
my
in the game?
favorite.
Accept the challenge? Then let's hop right in and find out. For you youngsters out there,
That one's
unfamiliar
probably a
with old
while.
Atari and arcade staples, this game stars, surprise, surprise, a frog. No mind's blown yet, right? But it's not just some generic type of frog. You wouldn't expect much from old school graphics, but look close enough and you'll see that Konami, the developers, made their title character out to be more than just a green sprite. He's a yellow-green critter with purple eyes. And there lies the first key. Sure, lots of frog bodies look like that, but how many actually have eyes that are such a bizarre color? 1. The Australian green tree frog. Notice the family resemblance? Still, I may have overlooked some, and even if I didn't, it's only one piece of evidence. How can we be sure? Well, let's look at the gameplay. Notice anything odd? Frogger can't swim. Frogs are amphibious, able to handle both land and water, so drowning shouldn't be a problem, right? But tree frogs, and Australian green tree frogs in particular, are known to be some of the weakest swimmers in frogdom, and anyone considering them as a potential pet is warned against keeping them alongside deep water. So our case just got a little bit stronger. But we're not finished. Let's keep going by unearthing some of the finer details of the game's setting, and then finding out if our frog would live in that sort of environment. First, the water at the top of the screen. It looks
So
like our
many
intrepid
of
hero is making
the
his way to
edits
safety in
are
some
so
sort of
weird.
marshy area known to have lily pads and crocodiles. Next, the road of death. Of course, there are your normal cars and semi-trucks, but what about these odd vehicles? According to the game, they're dune buggies, wide-wheeled vehicles used for crossing large sandy areas. There's also a strangely high number of bulldozers on this road, all traveling in the same direction. This means that we're looking for a location that is marshy, popular for dune buggy riding, and central to a great deal of construction in the 1980s. To find it, we have to travel to the land down under, Australia, specifically to its capital of Canberra. Did you think the capital was Sydney or Melbourne? Yeah, well, so did I until writing this paragraph. Apparently, Canberra was a compromise when these two largest cities in Australia couldn't agree on which should be the capital. Anyway, construction began on the Parliament House in Canberra in 1981, the year of Frogger's release. At that time, the Parliament House was the largest building in the Southern Hemisphere, valued at around 1.1 billion Australian dollars. Billion! Definitely a project requiring a few bulldozers. On top of that, just look at the huge amount of desert fit for dune buggy riding in the center of the continent. And last, but certainly not least, Northern Australia is home to both fresh and saltwater crocodiles, with the latter being the largest species of all living reptiles. It seems like the Australian landscape fits all of our requirements, so with the buggies and dozers headed east and the crocs to the north, I'd say that the true location of the video game Frogger is somewhere right around here. Does that fall into the domain of the Australian green tree frog? Absolutely. The whole northern and eastern parts of the continent are home to the frog. So if we were to shake a magic 8-ball, it would say that all signs were pointing to yes. With that, all I have to say is Frogger, Australian for video games. And now it's time for my final thought. People tend to write off Frogger as a game about a helpless little frog trying to cross the road. What they neglect to realize is that it is in fact a game about a giant mutant frog trying to beat the powers of natural selection. Look at it! Your frog is half the size of a tractor trailer. We're talking about a direct descendant of the Chrono Trigger frog squash frog. And a lot can be said if you track the lineage of giant frogs in gaming. Imagine, if you will, the following. A washed-up amphibious video game star, bitter for being laughed at one too many times for not being able to swim. Jealous of the successes of his replacement, he becomes Wart, despiser of veggies and murderous threat to Mario Jumpman. Beaten down again by the portly plumber, he turns to drugs, pawning the last of his former glory and becoming the stoned-out Flow Rider, Master Prince Flea Swallow in Parappa the Rapper, and perhaps, worst of all, to permanently strike his revenge against the gamers who abandoned him so many years ago, he fathers one of gaming's most hated characters, another giant amphibian like himself, the voice that would haunt countless gamers' dreams.
This is really starting to tick me off.
Slippy Toad, who is technically a frog because he is not brown, has smooth skin, and bulgy eyes. Look it up. In retrospect, maybe the early generation of arcade gamers should have just let this reject of nature get hit by a car, rather than help it to breed its freakish offspring by helping him to cross the road. Or maybe he was just another frog. But hey, it's a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. See you in California!
I feel like... I don't know how early the knitting one was. I feel like it was relatively early. But... I don't know, was it like first year? I also don't have the dates for any of these. I could bring that up on another monitor if I want. Yeah. Missed 1 week.
Get ready
So
to
yeah, it
sit
was
down on the
weekly
couch
at
and
this
start
point.
talking about your mommy issues, because this week we're looking at the psychology of Batman villains.
Yeah, this one was... I don't remember it very well, but I remember it was one that I had liked.
Welcome to Game Theory, a full college course in useless information. This week, to honor one of my most anticipated games at E3, Arkham City, we're putting my psychology degree to the test and looking at its predecessor, Arkham Asylum, to see what makes Batman villains so batty. Why are these games placing so much emphasis on a hospital for the insane? Can't Batman just send criminals to, oh, I don't know, jail? Are they truly loopy, or does Gotham City not believe in prisons? So all aboard the crazy train, cause we're gonna find out. We'll start off with Batman's most interesting nemesis, the Joker. His symptoms include blowing up buildings, killing his own henchmen, and wearing bright purple suits, but we're not the fashion police here. Instead, his biggest symptom is his desire to create chaos. Think about it. Does he ever really say why he wants to destroy Gotham?
What are you really after?
Oh, nothing much. Hundreds dying in pain and fear. All their meaningless lives brought to a horrifying conclusion.
Not really. He just hates the man. This points directly to antisocial personality disorder, or APSD. It's an illness characterized by rebellion against authority, a trait the Joker has in spades. Those with APSD also feel no remorse for those they've hurt, check, and have chronic crazy episodes, another big check there. Finally, people with antisocial personality disorder
There's another
tend to use
video.
multiple names. So if the Joker wasn't enough of an alias, looking to the comics, he's also
where-
known as Red Hood, Joe Kerr, and Clem Rusty, a name he probably stole from the Dukes of Hazzard. Can a mental hospital solve his problems? Assuming he
Another
doesn't escape
episode
criminal
where he
security
was,
first. Probably not. Therapy would only force him to interact with a psychiatrist, an authority figure
Not
he wrote to resent.
entirely
Jail
aged
would be
well,
the better
but
choice. But that's only one of the Looney Tunes in this joint. Case in point, Victor Zsasz, a guy who randomly stabs people to death and cuts a tally into his own skin to keep count of his victims. A real man of the year. But is he crazy or just emo? We need to find the rest of his symptoms, and that means turning to the comics. In Streets of Gotham, it's revealed that Zsasz constantly hallucinates and sees everything in red. On top of this, Batman Chronicles #3 tells us he suffers from a gambling addiction, was traumatized by the death of his parents, and even once attempted suicide. Wow, that was a downer of a sentence. Here's a funny picture. Now, I'm no doctor, but this cocktail of symptoms sounds a lot like schizophrenia, which is defined by hallucinations, addiction, self-mutilation, and suicidal thoughts, all of which go with Zsasz's backstory. Arkham? Definitely a good place for him. Hold up! This video's gone on too long without a sexy female, so let's check out Poison Ivy, who is definitely a little off kilter. First, she has phytophilia, which is the love of and obsession with plant life. However, true phytophiliacs tend to have sex with plants. Now, maybe they cut this out of the comics and games, but it wouldn't surprise me. However, there is no question about her having a disease known as histrionic personality disorder. What does that mean? It occurs most often in women and involves overly emotional and dramatic behavior designed to attract attention. In other words, diva syndrome. Sexual forwardness is a key symptom and, yep, Ivy's got that. What else? Well, dressing provocatively. Yes. Being overly seductive. I'd say so. Rapid mood swings?
That feels so much better.
Definitely. And my favorite, thinking relationships are more intimate than they are. Just look at the way she views her relationship with Batman in any comic, game, or movie. Talk therapy is the best treatment for histrionic personality disorder, so her treatment at Arkham would really take root. And now for this week's mind-blowing revelation. Of all the loonies in Arkham, guess who's the sanest and the smartest? Give up? It's Bane. Yep. Bane, the guy you defeat by letting him run headfirst into walls. Other than his addiction to venom, he doesn't actually exhibit any symptoms of mental illness. But that's not all. What's truly shocking is that, according to the Bane of the Demon storyline, Bane has eidetic memory, better known as photographic memory. According to the series, he's an expert in various scientific disciplines, knows 8 languages fluently, and figured out Batman's identity in a year. In other words, a real Bane in the neck. Oh, okay, enough. I'm done, I promise. In short, Bane would be just as dangerous at Trivial Pursuit as he is in hand-to-hand combat, something that never really came across in the game's portrayal of the guy. But don't scrape that brain matter off the walls just yet, because it's time
I mean, that
for my
could be
final
said with
thought.
a lot of
We've spent a lot of time
Arkham
analyzing Batman's
series'
bevy of supervillains, but
betrayals.
what about the Caped Crusader himself? Swiss psychologist Carl Jung theorized that those with identity crises develop complexes, one of which is the hero syndrome, a pathological need to help others. Sound familiar? But those suffering from the complex tend to set up dangerous situations so that they can save people. Batman doesn't do that, right? Right? Think about it. Each time the Joker, Poison Ivy, Bane, or any of these guys get caught, Batman throws them into Arkham, a minimum security hospital, practically a revolving door for the criminals of Gotham, rather than a maximum security prison where they belong. Each time
I mean,
they
in
escape,
most
more lives are put in
depictions, it
danger,
is
and they always
fairly
escape,
high
which gives Batman
security,
the chance to be
which
hero
is
all
mostly
over again.
just to
So this Guardian of Gotham may
make it
have a little
more
crazy in him.
impactful when
But
they
hey,
do us
that's
good.
just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching!
I think I remember him as showing up in quite a few of them. Okay, so the videos
Pull out
were
your
still...
handcrafted double-point knitting needles and get Grandma on the phone, cause we're unraveling some epic yarn.
Oh, okay.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to Game Theory. Like school, except that you learn things and talk about video games. So not like school at all, really. This week, to honor the 6-month anniversary of my engagement, we're checking out the game that played a role in my proposal, Kirby's Epic Yarn. A geeky move to say the least, but let's face it, what girl can resist a cute pink puffball? However, what if I told you that this game wasn't just an adorable romp through yards of
This
cloth, that it
is
was
being
in
one of
fact
the,
a
like,
training exercise preparing young
best
gamers
early
to combat
silly
a new wave of
episodes.
Black Ops, growing in popularity by the year. Watch on, intrepid gamer, and be afraid. Let's look at the facts. There are some key elements in this game that have been kept shrouded in mystery. First, the inspiration behind the fabric theme. Interviews with the development team at Good Feel reveal that the idea for a yarn-centric game came from Madoka Yamauchi, director of Wario Land Shake It. Fair enough. It was an innovative concept in an industry where graphical realism has become the norm. But, when asked how he came up with the idea, he responded with, and I quote, "It just sorta came to me." Really, Madoka? One day you just woke up and said, "Hey, I know, let's make a game about yarn." I don't buy it. What could he be hiding? To find out, let's look at the plot. For those of you who steered clear of this game because of its technicolor sweetness and childish sensibility, here's a recap. The evil sorcerer Yin Yarn has escaped from Patchland, a quilted world that he has sent into chaos, and is now trying to turn Dreamland into another realm of yarn. When Kirby stumbles across him, Yin Yarn transports the hero through a magic sock into Patchland, where he too becomes a yarn creation. And there you have it. But, who is this Yin Yarn? We, in fact, get no backstory on the guy, a mysterious omission considering that he is the main antagonist of the game. In fact, he doesn't even know his own motivations. Just look at this.
Dreamland will be mine. Not sure what I'll do with it, but I'll figure something out.
So Yin Yarn is less of a fully realized character and more of a symbol of some evil force. An evil force yarnifying the world that must be stopped by the powers of good. But what could this be referring to? Surely no threat like this actually exists. False. They go by many names. Hardcore chicks.
I forget
with
if this
sticks.
was...
Knita, please. The Wisconsin Knitting Society. But they are everywhere and they are active. I'm talking about yarn stormers, knit taggers, groups of females and some males who have banded together and go about bombing our statues, fences, buses, and trees. Bombs of yarn. Don't believe me? See the destruction for yourself. California, Pennsylvania, Texas, New York. A movement that was just unheard of years ago has exploded across the US and the world. Mexico, Canada, France, Denmark, Indonesia. The list goes on and they are showing no signs of stopping. But most troubling of all is that no one seems to want it to stop. Yes, it is illegal, considered an act of vandalism, but these grandma graffiti artists boast that most authority figures that have seen them working merely laugh, take pictures, or offer them suggestions. The Time magazine article blowing the lid off this guerrilla army earned an astounding 2,224 thumbs up. These people are criminals and we are responding with a thumbs up? A go get 'em? LFS, the Ladies Fancy Work Society in Denver, once operated by night but now strut about proudly during the day, having been hired by the city for $25,000 to cover fences with crocheted flowers. Magda Sayeg, considered the mother of yarn bombing, earns upwards of $20,000 for some of her larger pieces. Fortune 500 companies are paying her to wrap their things in yarn. All this because of an impulse 6 years ago when she covered her boutique's door handle in a blue and pink cozy. A rebellion was born on that day, as more and more people are trying to, quote, take back the knit, and brighten dreary cityscapes with bright parking meter sweaters, subway seat cozies, and statue leg warmers. In Yarn Bombing, the art of crochet and knit graffiti, practically patchwork propaganda for this insurgency, bombers are encouraged to work in the night and wear ninja black to avoid capture.
I feel like
and there are more how-to
a lot
guides
of
available wherever
the,
books are sold. They are recruiting in front of our
like,
bases,
people
which
that
brings
I've
me to
heard talk
my
about
final thought.
their problems with MatPat
or
are a lot covered by the existence of this one, because
is the mother of yarn bombing,
it
could
is
that
very
make Yin
clear
Yarn the
that he is
father?
playing a
Thank goodness then
character
for Kirby,
in
whose game is
this.
training our youth to stop
Like,
such macrame madness. It makes sense that Madoka Yamauchi didn't
this
want
is
to
one of
reveal
the
where he got
most
the idea for a
jokey
fabric game, because because he didn't
episodes
want them to
of
take his
Game
man. He
Theory.
didn't want them to know that
But
he
that's
was
not to say that the other ones
subconsciously
are
preparing
not
counter-yarners everywhere for an
intended to
impending
be
battle, a new war on terror.
like,
Seem far-fetched? Then explain this. 2005
they're
was
all
the year Magda
for
Saye
entertainment.
first
He
put
is
that
all doing
cozy on her
them,
door handle.
playing up a
2005,
character
same
and
year
a
Good Steel was
story.
established. The makers of Epic Yarn. Coincidence? I think not. Earlier
And
this month, June
almost
11th,
all
was
of
International
the,
Yarn Bombing Day. Thank goodness we survived.
like,
Current
things I
Epic
remember
Yarn, the
seeing
new
back when I
America's
watched
Army.
Game Theory
But hey,
pretty
that's
frequently.
just a theory.
We're
A
talking
game
about
theory.
how it's like,
Thanks for
oh,
watching.
it's taking things way too seriously, but it's not. He just has a very good persona for that kind of thing in the videos. That is part of the joke.
If doing the scarring is gay, then I'm the biggest queer on earth.
Oh, yeah, I didn't want to be logged in. Yeah, I might as well skip these ones. Maybe I'll go back and
Check out your internet history.
check them
Prepare to have
later.
your
Maybe have a
voices heard
separate
because the power
video
is
just going through those, because I feel
yours.
like there's going to be quite a few of those, especially as we get later in. And he starts covering horror games and stuff more frequently.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to Game Theory, the show that's like Pokemon, because you gotta catch 'em all. Like the new logo? It's a contribution from Spelling Failure over on screwattack.com and serves as a perfect symbol for this week's theme, you guys. That's right. In honor of our 10th go-around, we're looking at topics your comments said you wanted covered from past episodes. Issues like blowing up the planet in Mortal Kombat, robot-animal hybrids in Sonic, and how phytophiliacs like Poison Ivy have sex with plants. Well, maybe not that one. So all of you following the show and offering suggestions, this one's for you. Let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. At a time before I knew the phrase, normalize your audio. The Chrono Trigger episode. Over on the Talking Classics board, Chappelle pointed out that whenever you enter a time gate in Chrono, you're connected to a point at the same physical location on the planet, but at a different time. So what, you ask? What this doesn't account for is the movement of the planet through space. Where the Kingdom of Guardia is in the year 1999 is definitely not going to be the same in 12,000 BC. In actuality, if they were connected to the exact same spot at a different time, Chrono and the gang would appear floating through the cold reaches of space. However, this does support the theory we proposed in that episode, that the time gates are really wormholes, which are theoretically able to connect not only 2 points in time, but also 2 points in space. Second episode, Mario Pot and Pipes. No one liked that one. Moving on. Episode 3, Illusion of Gaia. No one watched that one. Next. Yeah, now
I do
we're
remember
talking.
watching
Episode
this
4.
one quite
Nothing
a
like
few
human
times.
mutilation to start building an audience. Ghost Ratchet from Screw Attack wanted to know about Smoke's Mortal Kombat 3 fatality. You know, the one where he blows apart the world. To completely blow apart the world, you first have to overcome the gravitational binding energy of the planet. That's basically the energy required to pull apart any material that's held together by gravity alone. Here's the formula, but to save you all the mathematics, for the planet Earth, it's about 2.24 times 10 to the 32nd joules. Well, that's just about 12 days worth of total energy from the sun. Yeah, not too shabby, right? Back to the game, slowing down the video of the fatality shows that Smoke releases 20 bombs, meaning that each bomb must release at least 1.12 times 10 to the 31st joules. That's over 53 times stronger than the strongest bomb ever detonated, the Soviet Union's hydrogen bomb, named the Tsar Bomba. Wait, did I say 53? I meant 53 trillion, with a T, trillion times stronger. To blow up the Earth using these dinky little duds, Smoke would have to release over 1 quadrillion, with a QU, quadrillion of these bombs, and that, my friends, is why evil geniuses always stick with lasers. Moving on to episode 5 in Sonic, They Call Me the Fizz, over on Screw Attack, brought to my attention the real-life Dr. Robotniks of the world, creating animal-robot hybrids. Remember Bunny Rabbit from the Sonic TV show that was 2/3 rabbit, 1/3
image
robot?
choices
The
are
guys at
still
DeviantArt sure do. Anyway, science is getting close.
very interesting
The robot you
choice,
see here
even
is
for
Matsuri Inc.
creating
and is controlled by a
representations
rat brain
of
floating in a jar,
their
just like in the old horror flicks. It's the first to be fully controlled by living
usernames.
tissue, and the first robot that can learn. But even more wild and probably closer to Dr. Robotnik's work is the remote-controlled rat. Dr. John Chapin has hooked electrodes directly into the rat's brain, specifically the area connected to the whiskers. By stimulating either the left or right whisker, they prompt the rat to turn in that direction. When the rat chooses to turn that way, he is rewarded with electric stimulation to the pleasure center of the brain, in essence, training the rat to have the doctors dictate his movements. Ethical? Creepy? I don't know about you, but they had me sold on stimulation to the pleasure center. This next tidbit is one I found for myself. Remember how in episode 6 I said I could prove that Frogger was an Australian green tree frog without a reasonable doubt? Well, there may be room for a little doubt. See this? It's an otter, and otters live in 5 out of the 7 continents. What continents are left out, you ask? Antarctica, big surprise there, and Australia. And while we're on the subject of errors, for the episode on Batman psychology, gold stars go to game trailer users Orange Matter and Durandal for catching that antisocial personality disorder is indeed ASPD, not APSD. Now, I'm not one to make excuses, but that was the one episode where I had someone else help me with the research. He has since been fired. Also, many of you wanted to know about the Riddler. In short, he's a narcissist, a self-lover, with obsessive-compulsive disorder, or OCD. That's why he leaves a signature riddle at every crime scene implicating himself.
Yeah, I think he's the one that they have been most upfront about.
We can trace his inflated ego and compulsion to prove he's so smart to a repressed memory revealed in issue 187 of Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, in which his father beat him as a child for thinking he had cheated to get such high academic achievements, when in fact he was just a smart kid. The OCD appears in Batman Gotham Adventures when Riddler tries to commit a crime without leaving a calling card and can't. Realizing that he may actually have some mental issue, he asks to return to Arkham. Also, while researching the Riddler, I stumbled across this interesting coincidence. In the 12-part storyline Hush, the Riddler concocts a plan that uses Killer Croc, the Scarecrow, Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, and the Joker to kill Batman. Does this list sound familiar to anyone else, or is it just me? Maybe the Riddler had more to do with Arkham Asylum than the game led us to believe. Moving on to the conspiracy of Kirby, did anyone else notice that yarn bombing was featured on YouTube last week? Just saying. And a big shout out to Lime Rosen and TailsLol on GT, who pointed out that Kirby's first television spot in Japan for Kirby's Adventure actually featured characters made of yarn. And Epic Yarn didn't even start off as a Kirby game. And finally, inspired by my latest video, 8-Bit Old Fart proposed the creation of a modern-day Duke Nukem by ripping off action hero conventions from the 2000s. I have recreated this new ass-kicking hero here.
I am headed with these mother snakes on this mother plane.
Which brings me to my final thought. You guys and gals watching out there in the Weboverse rock. Period. We've covered a lot of topics in 10 episodes, and you know what? We're gonna cover a whole lot more as you keep supporting the show, leaving your thoughts in the comments,
I'm really surprised
and
the
sending me your
yarn,
own ideas.
Epic
hey,
Yarn
that
one was
is
in the
no
first
theory,
10.
but it is a game
Also,
theory.
the fact that
Thanks
means
for watching,
Epic
guys.
Yarn
I can't do it
predates
without you.
Arkham City by like a notable amount. I remember I watched the... I already forgot the name. The Island. I know that one's pretty soon, and it was showed up in the videos coming soon one.
Slap on some sunscreen
Oh,
and
that's
break out your
actually the next
peeler,
one.
'cause
Cool.
we're getting fruity.
I assume. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it's the Going Sign theme.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to Game Theory, the show that's gonna put this game on the map.
Oh, it's just called
Literally.
Adventure
This week we're
Island.
gonna put this game on the map. Literally. By the end, we'll see that this tropical romp is a key to unlocking a real, yet virtually unheard of, war in America's history. So enough pussyfooting
Yeah,
around and
banana
let's do
war.
this. Now, I'm a fan of hard games. Old school hard. Battletoads, I want to be the guy, both on my top 10 list, and man, the original Adventure Island is definitely in that league. Slippery controls, one-hit kills, lack of continues, memorization, glorious. You play as Master Higgins, a baseball cap, green short wearing Joe Schmo who's not afraid to let it all hang
this
out
the one
as
who
he
is
skateboards his
suspicious
way to
might be
rescuing his
Mario?
hot trophy girlfriend,
Or was
Princess
that a
Leilani,
different
whose
person?
name mysteriously changes to Tina in the end credits. Wait, did she just break off the ropes herself? Women unacceptable! Anyway, Hudson Soft, the developers and publishers, claim the setting of the game, this so-called
Philippines?
island of adventure, is located in the South Pacific.
Oh,
I say they need to retake world geography. Let's look at the gameplay. Like a lot of old platformers, this one doesn't let you daintily saunter through its gauntlet of snails, frogs, and jumping octopi. Oh no! You best be running your rotund self to the finish line before this bar runs out. What is it? It's a starvation meter. Ha, that's right. Unless Higgins is constantly stuffing fresh island fruit down his gullet every couple of seconds, he loses all will to live. And that's where we find our first clue, the local cuisine. Here are all the foodstuffs that appear in the game. We have bananas and This could be an apple or a cherry. This could be a tomato or an apple. Let's just say that's a carrot. And if Yoshi's story was a waste of money, at the very least it taught me that those are melons. Oh, and there's coconuts hanging from the trees in the background. Coconuts and bananas are the most common in the game, so we're looking for a place that has a lot of both. Here are lists of the top 5 coconut and banana producing nations in the world. Comparing the lists, Brazil and India aren't islands, leaving only the Philippines, but is it an island? Now, mind you, geography was always my worst subject in school, so this was a legitimate question. But for those of you playing at home, yes it is. However, never is it listed as part of the South Pacific. To make our case airtight, let's look at the rest of the pixelated produce. Carrots are listed as one of the most important vegetables found in the Philippine Highlands, so check there. As for the melon, see the pattern on it? That's because it's a netted melon, also called a nutmeg melon, a rock melon, a musk melon, or most commonly, a cantaloupe. That said, does it exist in the Philippines? Normally, not so much, but a company named AgriNurture has created a new strain of cantaloupe specifically in the Philippines. Called the honey melon, this superfruit thrives in tropical soil, produces more frequent and sweeter yields, and is resistant to pests. The fact that it's rarer also reflects it being the most prized fruit for Master Higgins in the game. Cherries and apples normally need cooler climates to flourish, but submitted for the approval of the Game Theory Society, I give you manzanitas, small trees spread throughout the Philippines that produce fruit the locals call Philippine cherries. As far as apples are concerned, check these out. They're called star apples for the star pattern in the pulp, and yes, they grow in the Philippines. And to cover all our bases, if these poorly defined pixels happen to be a tomato, tomatoes rank second only to eggplant in production area in the country. Eggplant, which also makes an appearance in the game to suck the life out of our portly protagonist. I don't know what it is about old NES games, but between this and Kid Icarus, it's no wonder that a generation of kids grew up not wanting to eat their veggies. MatPat Hudson Soft said the game is in the South Pacific. True, but despite these oceanic nations producing some amount of coconut and banana, the rest of their crops are much more limited. Vanuatu, coconuts. Tuvalu, coconuts. Papua New Guinea, coffee and coconuts. Tonga, squash and coconuts. Micronesia, taro and sweet potato. And it wouldn't be the first time an old NES game had errors in it. I mean, look at the game's booklet. King Quiller as a final boss? No such enemy exists. So are we really going to trust their authority? But yes, you're right. Fruit alone does not a meal make. It's only the garnish on this delicious entree of proof we're making, so let's look at some protein. We have red octopi, blue octopuses, some long thin fish that jumps out of the water to attack, and a fire-spitting cobra. There's also a generic bird, bat, and spider, but those guys appear in every game, so who cares? Here's a video of a red octopus off the coast of the Philippines, so we know that they're around. But more interesting and rare is the blue octopus, or should I say the blue-ringed octopus, the only species in the world that features the color blue, found in the Pacific waters around, you guessed it, the Philippines. Despite being the size of a golf ball, they're one of the world's deadliest animals. They carry enough venom to kill 26 adult humans in 90 minutes, 10,000 times stronger than cyanide, and with no known antidote and imperceptible bites, it's no wonder Higgins dies in one hit from touching them. When it's in attack mode, the rings on its body change to a bright peacock blue. Wild! The long thin fish looks a whole lot like a barracuda, and not only do they live in and around the Philippines, there's even a lake named after them. But most fitting of all, there have been reports of barracudas jumping out of the water to attack humans. Finally, the fire-spitting cobra is actually an exact match to the Philippine cobra, a highly venomous breed of spitting snake found on the islands. And yes, you heard right, it's able to spit its venom up to 10 feet. The fastest recorded death caused by a bite from these guys, 30 seconds. Not quite the instant kill featured in the game, but pretty darn close. So I feel safe in saying that between our flora and fauna, we have a good handle on the location of the game. But how does knowing that Adventure Island is located in the Philippines better our appreciation of this NES
That's going to be
classic?
interesting when I get to the point where he starts
Look at Master Higgins,
having people to make
stereotypical American, overweight, baseball cap,
visuals
prone to
for him.
shirtlessness, hot trophy wife who doesn't even know her own name. Now look at the villains of the game. All animals, or veggies, found on the island with the big boss being a voodoo wizard. So what? Well, you've heard of the Spanish-American War, right? How about the Philippine-American War beginning in 1899? One that took more lives and cost more money. I hadn't. This is a much abbreviated overview, but during the US's imperialist days, after kicking the Spanish out of the Philippines, Americans lingered a little too long, and the island that thought it had won its independence realized that they had just changed owners. I propose that Adventure Island is a symbolic representation of this struggle between the natural old way of life and the dominating American influence. That's why all your enemies are nature-themed, but if you really don't believe me, consider this. After winning the war, American settlers developed the land, using the rich soil to start huge tropical plantations. For workers, they hired the local Filipinos. Don't you find it odd that the American hero's name name in Adventure Island is Master Higgins? What kind of a name is Master? Or is it a title given to a plantation owner? An American plantation owner in the Philippines? I'll let you be the judge. But hey, it's a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, that one, I think is one of the best of these early ones. Chris, I love it again.
San Diego.
Activate your bubble shield and pull out your shotgun, cause this is Spartan.
Okay, a Halo one. I feel like Dig Dug has to be soon.
Hello Internet and welcome to
It's kind of
Game
interesting
Theory,
doing this
show
without
that's
being able to
almost as
see
satisfying
the
as a
later
celebratory
videos,
teabag
where I
after a
can
well-placed
just
headshot. Almost.
let's try to
This week begins a
remember.
shameless grab to expand my viewership by tackling some of gaming's most popular franchises. To kick things off right, we're looking at Power Armor served up Master Chief style. Why not Metroid, Crisis, Fallout, Vanquish, or any of the other 100 games that feature it? Because the Spartan armor actually exists. In fact, it may
Oh,
be
yeah, this
better
guy.
in real life. And here's the kicker. You, precious viewer, can own it for yourself. Interested? Then pull out your credit card and keep watching. First, let's get one thing straight. Power armor is not to be confused with mech suits. Anyone else remember Mech Warrior for the PC? No one? Man, the 90s were too long ago. Alright. Avatar or District 9 then. The difference is that a mech has a person sitting inside piloting it. Basically the same as a car. If your car had 2 tons of machine gun ammo, a pulse laser, and 30 anti-aircraft missiles. Compare that to power armor, which is, in essence, a part of your body. Hence its real-world name, powered exoskeletons. Getting down to brass tacks, in Halo, Master Chief's armor is named Mjolnir, a name borrowed from the Norse god Thor's hammer. The suit is hooked directly into the Spartan's central nervous system and is able to translate the electrochemical signals of the brain into digital code, allowing the user's thoughts to command the armor's movements. According to the game's official wiki, the suit amplifies force, doubles lifting capacity, and speeds up reaction time by a factor of 5. However, the benefits come at a price. Ordinary humans can't use it. Only those with a skeletal augmentation can wear the suit, eliminating everyone but a Spartan 2 and Wolverine. I should also point out that the suit weighs about 1,000 pounds, almost as heavy as an entire season's worth of Biggest Loser contestants. It also comes with a host of clips, belts, and magnetic holsters that allow for easy carry of 2 weapons. Well, believe it or not, power suit research began way back in the 1960s, taking place sometime between hippie love-ins and
This
war
one I don't
protests.
remember, like,
The US
at all.
military, with a surprising amount of time
I remember that he
available for a
covered
government
it.
agency waging war
I
in
think he
Vietnam,
goes
along with the help
into
of GE, developed
the
Heartbeat,
melee
a
attack
powered
thing,
exoskeleton that made lifting
but I don't
250
remember
pounds
much of
feel
the
like
video
lifting 10
itself.
pounds. Pretty awesome, except for the fact that the full suit weighed in at 1,500 pounds and would occasionally break out into violent, uncontrolled motion, much like me on a dance floor. It was also harder to remove than a plasma grenade latched to your chest. Needless to say, the project was scrapped. Then, in 1986, came the first version of the light suit. After breaking his back in a parachute accident and reading the book Starship Troopers while in recovery, U.S. Ranger Monty Reed conceived the idea of a robot skeleton that could help the paralyzed to walk again. Now, 14 iterations later, the life suit, which is powered by compressed air, has done just that. It can also lift over 200 pounds and walk 3 miles in 90 minutes. But we want to make a Master Chief, a one-man army of strength and endurance, and that's why we need to check out the Raytheon Sarcos exoskeleton designed in Utah, which grants you full range of motion while providing almost a limitless amount of endurance. Seriously, this scrawny guy was pumping 200 pounds until he got bored. It makes carrying 150 pounds feel like nothing, so there you go with your super strength. But what about a suit that can also read your mind? Well, to find that, we find ourselves headed to Japan, surprise, surprise, to a company with a twisted sense of humor. Cyberdyne, yes, they're named after the evil company from Terminator, has developed HAL. Yes, they've named their product after the evil computer from 2001: A Space Odyssey. HAL 5 senses electrical impulses in the skin to determine the user's movement, then predicts the desired motion from a set of likely movements. According to Cyberdyne, it increases the strength of the wearer about tenfold. And you too can look like the Wii's new controller by renting this suit for only $1,000 a month. And if none of this interests you, you can always turn yourself into a giant robotic spider controlled by the movement of your fingers like these guys did back in 1997. I can see your disappointed comments now, because none of these actually look like Master Chief's armor. And you're right, if you were shot while wearing any of these, good luck surviving. But just think about combining this super powerful exoskeleton technology with a suit of armor that's bulletproof without needing to recharge a bubble shield, allows you to sprint without needing to equip a special ability, and is able to be worn without having adamantium for bones or an HDMI hookup implanted into your brain. You'd have something better than Halo's design. Well, we're not far off. In Canada, Troy Hurtubise, formerly known for his anti-bear suits, has developed the Trojan. Close enough, but offering even more protection from life's little stray bullets. The armor comes equipped with pepper spray and a capsule of salt for your frontline fry cravings, emergency lights, an ingestible tracking device, a voice recorder, a mini RC scouting car with video feedback, a head-mounted laser pointer because, I don't know, there was space on the helmet, and even a shot of morphine for a quick trip. It's club-proof, knife-proof, bullet-proof, explosion-proof, and idiot-proof. It even has a knife slot and 2 easy-draw holsters allowing for the crucial dual wield. And to keep you cool while wearing a huge suit of plastic and ballistic foam, the helmet comes with what amounts to a solar-powered air conditioner. Oh, and there's a clock that comes out of your crotch. Did I mention that? And you too can be a human Swiss Army knife for the low, low price of $2,000 per suit. Wow, you must be thinking to yourself, he looks a lot like Master Chief. Way to stay sharp, Joe Gamer. He openly admits that the Trojan's design was inspired by Halo's tech. A revelation that brings me to my final thought. Bungie created such a brilliant sci-fi world in the Halo franchise that, as we saw today, it's shaping the future of military armor. Combining human-enhancing robotics with a suit that's bulletproof, light, and comes with a crotch clock? Huh, Halo may have started as combat evolved, but with a new trilogy just announced, the technology of Halo may just be a thing of the past. But truly, what can I say to best sum up what we've seen here today? Only this. Power armor is sweet. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
You're a new playing Halo Reach. Don't be afraid, come on, sing along with me. When I'm on Xbox, I'm proud to say I have no friends, but I'll play online.
That one is actually pretty good. I think I didn't watch it that much.
I'm not used to. It's Halo 8, the game of my dreams. How did this book get into my team? Come on, let's play. I'm ready to begin. Hey guys, let's fight. It's time to win. God damn it, noob. Why are you back again? Because I love Halo and I love new friends. When I get the jetpack, I will fly around and I'll go up super high until somebody shoots me down. But I don't use active camo. I don't need to hide because I am a noob and I say that with pride.
Dig into some trout yogurt and smile for the camera, because this week we're tackling Mother.
Mother, there is no other like Mother, so treat her right. Mother.
Hello Internet, welcome to Game Theory, the show where our
I don't
special
actually remember
PSI
much
ability
of this
is
one other
Rain
than
Shock. Episode 11,
it talks
our
a lot
romp through the
about
Pacific Ocean to find
the-
Adventure Island, got me talking about my top 10 games, and this week has me unveiling one more. I confess it, I'm an Earthboundian, a Nessophile, a fuzzy pickler. Anyway, it's tied for my number 1 spot. I mean, what other game has you fighting ruler-brandishing hippies, a former member of the Screw Attack team, and a huge, steaming pile of vomit with googly eyes? It's a well-loved cult classic and is hailed as one of the funniest, most unique games of all time, but this Technicolor romp about a boy, his bat, and his portly demon spawn of a next-door neighbor hides a much darker side. So put on your Mr. Baseball cap as we check out the birth of the creepiest boss in gaming, chemical terrorists, police brutality, prostitutes, dismemberment, and a whole lot more. At first glance, Earthbound simply appears to be an offbeat RPG with a quirky sense of humor.
I don't think this goes into the idea of
our silent protagonist and
dark
psychic ruler
timeline.
Kind, along
I
with
don't
the help
think
of
he
his
actually
motley
does.
crew, must save the world from an evil alien force
I don't
named
think that's
Gaius.
actually
Kinda
his
like Chrono Trigger, but
theory.
without
I think he
time
talks
travel,
about
and
that.
replacing the ethers and crossbows with pizzas and frying pans. The music sounds like it came from an episode of Rocko's Modern Life, with a lot of catchy bleeps and blats, and the color palette ranges from Sunday morning comics to psychedelic trip out. But the rainbow bright feel glosses over some serious issues here. For example, practically every list chronicling the scariest bosses in gaming features, spoiler alert, Earthbound's final fight against Gaius, which is odd since no other boss in the game is scarier than a Hello Kitty stuffed animal. Aw, a giant ant. Aw, a cute disease-ridden rat. But then look at this! You walk up through a twisted system of intestines, already a huge change in tone from the rest of the game, only to fight this, which turns into this! The director of the game, Shigesato Itoi, has been very open in admitting that his inspiration for Gygas was what he remembered as a rape scene from The Military Policeman and the Dismembered Beauty, an adult movie that traumatized him when he accidentally saw it as a child. It also inspired Gygas's dialogue with phrases like, "It hurts," and "I feel good." Also, and I'm just going to touch on this because fans of the game hate this theory, but it deserves to be mentioned, many have debated the final boss takes the form of, are you ready for it? A
Oh yeah,
penis.
ultrasound.
Seriously. But it kind of makes sense, walking along internal organs, and then look at the negative space here. It's kind of like a messed up Rorschach test. But baby or no baby, you can start to see why it's not much of a stretch to say that Earthbound may have some darker themes. Take, for instance, its cult. And no, I don't mean Earthbound's fanbase. Sure, the cult depicted in the game calls itself Happy Happyism. And yes, their mission statement is laughable, considering that they figuratively want to paint the town red by literally painting it blue, which includes coloring the town's dairy cow a nice shade of periwinkle. But like a hallway of fallopian tubes, it gets a whole lot more disturbing when you look a little closer. Aum Shinrikyo was a cult founded in Japan in 1984 by a mostly blind acupuncturist who claimed he could levitate. Here's a copy of their logo, and here's an image of their leader in his traditional attire. Does the color look familiar? It should. But there's more. The cult grew in popularity until the 90s, when it had built up enough support for members to run for public office. They didn't win, but their campaign became synonymous with singing, dancing, smiling balloons, and an overall happy tone. Another odd parallel to the happiest of Earthbound. But if you're still not convinced, their headquarters was located in a small dairy town. A mundane fact which takes on a whole new meaning when considering that the only cow to appear in the game is the one living right outside the Happy Happyism compound. So who is this cult? Aum Shinrikyo began producing the deadly nerve gas sarin in 1993 and used it in the city of Matsumoto, Nagano, killing 8 and harming 200, making it the first instance of terrorism using chemical weapons against innocent civilians. They struck again in 1995 on 5 subway trains in Tokyo, with baggies of liquefied sarin wrapped in newspapers along with another baggie of solvent that could turn it into a gas. Members of the cult entered the subways, left the packages, and then punctured the bags with an umbrella point on their way out, leaving the deadly gases to mix behind them, killing 12 and affecting as many as 5,000. When their compound was finally raided, investigators found explosives, anthrax, Ebola, and even a Russian military helicopter. Knowing this makes a silly cult wanting to paint the world blue seem a whole lot more sinister. And the mature themes don't stop there. What about unprovoked police brutality?
Quite clearly,
Can you think of another game before
is
1994 with that? How about
referenced
a game
in
after
a lot of
1994?
things.
Even in
It
Grand
is
Theft Auto, the
like
big daddy of bad behavior games, you have to seriously maim a couple of pedestrians before the cops will even pay attention to you. But here, after beating the first boss, Earthbound has Ness, a young boy, dragged to the police station where he is assaulted by 4 cops and their captain one by one. It's sick! And accurate. You see, the 90s as a decade was the first time the phrase police brutality made it to the public consciousness, most famously with the case of Rodney King in 1991. It started when Los Angeles police officers pulled King over for drunk driving following a high-speed chase. After subduing him with a taser, the officers proceeded to kick him repeatedly and hit him 56 times with their batons. In 1992, a jury acquitted most of the officers on trial, which led to the famous LA riots. An interesting story, but what's it have to do with Earthbound? Remember how I said that Ness defends himself against 4 regular cops and a captain? Guess how many officers were there on the scene during the Rodney King beating? 4, and 1 sergeant. How about prostitutes leading you into hotel rooms to get mugged? Yep, Earthbound's got that. What about willfully choosing to have your arms, legs, ears, and eyes ripped from your body, only to then lose your mind? Earthbound has that too. It's funny just how much an oddball sense of humor and bright tone can cover up, because as a kid, none of this made me think twice. Well, except for that last one, I really didn't want that spirit to rip out my eyes. When Shigesato Itoi set out to create a different kind of RPG, one based on the real world, he did just that, and didn't limit himself to simply replacing tonics with hamburgers and merchants to department stores. He dealt with issues you see in the media every day. Rape, religious fanaticism, violence, but handled them with a dash of humor and a heaping spoonful of bizarre storytelling. Earthbound isn't about a boy trying to stop an alien menace. It's about a boy growing up, leaving his home, and experiencing both the good and the bad of the world. That's why Gygas is so scary. He's based on the moment Itoi lost that childhood innocence. And that's why the ending of the game is so satisfying, because Ness faced that darkness and made it through, becoming a young adult. He's grown up, and we, as the player, have cared enough to get him there. It's truly a triumph of the gaming experience, and one that I recommend to anyone. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory.
What else? What else is there? I mean, Dig Dog, Pokemon. I think there was a Deus Ex
Ditch
one.
Mr. Bubbles and bring your
It was
little
fairly
sister,
early.
because this week is going to be Bioshocking.
Oh, this one's Bioshock. This one seems louder than the others. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. Yeah, that's a little loud.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, now with 100% more flash and 500% more audience pandering. Who says learning can't be exciting? This week we're talking about the philosophies of Ayn Rand. Just long enough to say that we're not talking about the philosophies of Ayn Rand, because you know what? Bioshock is a whole lot more than just an objectivist romp through a utopian society. It's an objectivist romp through an underwater utopian society, which, as we all know, increases its coolness by a factor of 23. But could we really build an underwater self-sufficient city like the developers depict in Bioshock? This week we're looking at the science involved, from handling water pressure in undersea forests to geothermal energy and real-life millionaires currently working to make Rapture a reality. So would you kindly inject yourself with
Yeah,
that
the
using
underwater
syringe and slug
hotels
stem cells,
thing.
because we're taking a trip under the sea. According to Bioshock's official wiki, Rapture is located underwater a few hundred miles west of Iceland's capital city of... Any geography buffs out there?
Reykjavik.
Very good! Gold star if you can spell it. That area of the Atlantic is actually some of the shallowest ocean water on Earth, only about 656 feet deep, or 200 meters if you're a viewer who actually understands the appeal of soccer. Football. Compare that to Mariana's Trench, which has a depth the equivalent to cutting Mount Everest off at sea level, placing it on the ocean floor, and still having a mile of water on top. With water weighing in at 62.5 pounds per cubic foot, even in the shallows of the Atlantic Ocean, any architect of Andrew Ryan's would have to contend with an immense amount of pressure. But surprisingly, the solution to the problem exists right in your own kitchen cabinets. The Triton 36,000 is a new submarine set to explore the depths of Mariana's Trench, making it only the 4th expedition in history to do so. That's right, there have been more missions to the moon than there have been to the bottom of the ocean. However, what makes this expedition different is that the sub is practically a glass sphere made out of Pyrex, the same stuff as in Mom's casserole dish. Unlike other materials,
Extremely
Pyrex
good at
sphere will actually
pressure.
strengthen under the increasing water pressure. Why this superglass is necessary for the cup I use to measure the water going into my Easy Mac is beyond me.
Because it can also handle extreme temperature differentials greater than most other even glass materials.
According to the game, Rapture was finished in 1951, meaning that the city's network of rounded tubes and pipes could easily have been made from this pressure-resistant material. And the spherical bathysphere system, like the Triton sub, takes full advantage of using geometry to displace water pressure. However, the rest of Bioshock's urban planning wouldn't hold up nearly as well. The stone buildings and statues would erode faster than Lindsay Lohan's dignity, and the sharp geometric patterns of the city's Art Deco design would do nothing to evenly distribute the immense amount of pressure. In short, it's possible, but it ain't too smart. Building the structures, though, is only the first issue. How about oxygen? I mean, an underwater city is cool and all, but without air to breathe, it would
Well, there's the
Well, the game
all
offers
plant
solutions.
areas.
One mission has our hero Jack roaming through the hills of Arcadia, Rapture's undersea garden, to revive the trees that provide part of the city's crucial oxygen supply. In real life, an indoor ecosystem isn't the challenge here. The real problem is getting sunlight through the water and to the plants. The euphotic zone is the name given to the uppermost layer of the ocean where 70% of the world's photosynthesis takes place. However, this only extends 100 meters down, which, if you've been paying attention, is only half the maximum possible depth of the ocean where Rapture is located. Now, you know that I'm not one to take the easy way out. I mean, I practically illustrate every 5th word of my scripts. But here, I think it's accurate to say that Arcadia is simply located in the top of one of Rapture's tallest buildings. Because think about it, 300 or so feet up by building standards isn't that high to begin with, especially for a city modeled after New York. Look, I have an explanation already with light bulbs being able to recreate sunlight's natural wavelength, but if you see here, this area of the game is lit entirely by what's streaming in through the glass ceiling, meaning that this part of Rapture must be in the euphotic zone. So that's growing the garden, but what about the oxygen itself? Well, the plants are a nice touch, but like a degree in classical languages, they're pretty useless. You see, oxygen is easily produced from the electrolysis of water, which for Rapture, there's never a shortage of. Basically run an electrical current through the liquid.
Except the problem with this is that then you doing pure oxygen, which kills
So there's no
people.
doubt that Rapture could have easily incorporated it. No, the bigger issue is the removal of the waste carbon dioxide we breathe out. And sure, trees would make a little difference, but what's really necessary is a CO2 scrubber, a device which absorbs carbon dioxide out of the air so it can literally be thrown away like waste, a process that dates back to before 1878. It's an easy solution, making underwater living that much more enjoyable. So we have our buildings and we have our air supply. All we really need now is the power. The 8th level of Bioshock brings Jack to Hephaestus, the fiery furnace, a plant that uses the Earth's geothermal energy to produce the bulk of Rapture's electricity. And here is where the developers over at 2K show their brilliance. Because on land, utilizing the natural heat of Earth's molten interior poses multiple problems, including transporting it all the way to the surface, and the fact that it's very location specific, meaning that you have to be around a convergence of two technologies.
But if it's by Iceland, there's a lot of faults.
But Rapture being on the seafloor eliminates the first problem altogether, because you've already gotten rid of hundreds of feet of piping. As for the second, remember what I said a couple minutes ago? About Rapture's location?
This is gonna be the last one of these, because I do have to go. I didn't realize it was 4:30 already.
As a result, over 50% of Iceland's total energy consumption comes from geothermal sources. And to wrap it all up in a nice little package, using geothermal energy in Iceland dates back to 1930.
So we got
over 10 years
through,
before Rapture was even
I
conceived,
don't know how
meaning that
many.
not only is it possible to build the city today, unbelievably, all the technology for an underwater city existed by the time Andrew Ryan started his plans in the 1940s. All told, it appears that Bioshock...
But yeah, I think this one was pretty neat. I don't remember it as well. I mean, I never really played Bioshock, so there wasn't one that immediately interested me.
Have you researched the ocean floor around the Mid-Atlantic Ridge lately? I have. And my research didn't turn up anything. Still, the idea of oceanic living is catching on. Underwater restaurants, a secret underwater hotel planned off a private island in Fiji, a $1.5 billion underwater complex in Dubai. But most bio-shockingly of all, in 2008, a group of millionaires, including the founder of PayPal, started the Seasteading Institute, an organization dedicated to making independent floating ocean nations. Okay, so they're not underwater, but stick with me here, because this is a big...
I thought it was underwater hotel thing.
Run on libertarian principles, laissez-faire, hands-off, each man entitled to the sweat of his brow. In other words, Andrew Ryan's, and yes, Ayn Rand's philosophy. Okay, so we didn't get through the whole episode without mentioning her again, sorry. The first test of this is set to happen near the San Francisco Bay sometime coming soon, so keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, I recommend that everyone throw away their retro scuba gear and pour salt on any suspicious-looking slugs. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
I do remember hearing about the Utopia. Yeah, I think most of these I have liked. They're very different from, like, I think the more recent ones. We only covered, I think, like a dozen. I can actually look at the playlist now and count. 5, 6, 7, 8. Kind of skipped that one. 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 13 or 14 of them. Which is not a great record so far, but no, a lot of these were really interesting. I always thought that they were like really short videos, but I guess they were near 10 minutes, tending towards 8 or 9. I'm looking forward to, this is still very early where he's I think this last one, the Bioshock one, he's gotten a lot better with the, like, general style and character that he's portraying. but there's still a lot more like growth that I remember from them. Like, I don't know, I just scrolled a little bit through the playlist to see if there was one in particular that I remember as being like, I think the Assassin's Creed was a really good one for setting up the style. Obviously the Mario's Mental 2-part, that whole era. Revisiting a lot of the original ones. So I'm looking forward to those, but yeah, there's so many of these. I'm not sure how well I'm gonna be able to get through them, but I'm gonna keep trying to, so. Anyway, yeah, I do have to go in just a minute, so I'm gonna end this here. I'll be back for this. I mean, I'm not sure how often. I'm trying to do these earlier in the day. I say earlier, I started this at like 2. But yeah, I'm gonna try and do these relatively early so that I can go for a couple hours each time. But yep, that's it for this one. Be back.